Well, you please yourself. I'm no fashion expert. Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about The Stones of Blood by David Fisher and directed by Darrell Blake. This is the third story in the massive season-long story arc, The Key to Time, in which each story is centered around the Doctor and his companion Romana searching for one of the segments to the key to time so they can save time from the Black Guardian. And here has a little bit more to do with the overall plot. Not a lot, just a little bit more scenes. For example, right at the start, we actually hear the White Guardian tell the Doctor, beware the Black Guardian. And there's a bit more focus on the energy that the key to time has, and that kind of affects the story a little bit. But yeah, so this story, this is actually the 100th Doctor Who story to be released. And I believe episode 4 aired around about the same time. I believe it was like 5 days off from the show's 15th anniversary. Sadly, they didn't have any special occasion for it. This story was just aired for it. There was plans to have a scene in which Romana and K9 bake the Doctor a birthday cake, and they all have a celebration and eat it. But sadly, Graham Williams thought that might have been a bit too silly. So, and they already made the cake. So what happened was that the crew just ate the cake, celebrating it, which is really funny. So there you go. The Stones of Blood. So, what is the story about? The Doctor and Romana land on present-day Earth. Well, present-day Earth in terms of this show, which is 1978. And they find some really bizarre stones. A stone circle, basically like Stonehenge. But it's not Stonehenge. And they befriend two female scientists. An old woman and a young woman. Frey, I believe the young woman's called. I can't remember what the old woman's name is. Does it say on the back? It does not. Well, that's disappointing. And they explain to the Doctor and Romana that there are druids around this area, and that sometimes they sacrifice like goats and stuff like that, but never really humans. And so the Doctor goes to the leader of the druids to investigate. And Romana stays with the ladies. Now, it's important to note that Philip Hinchcliffe's era of the show of being a more gothic element to Doctor Who is gone at this point. So this episode kind of feels like a tribute to that era, as though it might not be completely gothic, it does have a lot of strong gothic elements. There's even a few shots of blood being poured. And a very nasty scene when somebody's hand gets turned into a skeleton. But there's certain elements that stop it from being goofy, which we'll talk about, especially when we get to part 4. So anyway, so the Doctor goes to investigate, and they seem to know, the leader seems to know who he is. He knows his name, he knew he was coming, and he hid 3 paintings for reasons we don't know yet. And he kidnaps the Doctor. He basically knocks him out whilst he's there. Now, Tom Baker's acting in this is superb. He's a bit more railed in than he has for the last few episodes, which makes some of the humour, in my opinion, some of its best. My particular favourite is when he's talking to the old woman and she's kind of like nagging on. She's just talking about like rubbish, and you can see it in Tom Baker's face. He's just so like, oh god, really, I'm in a rush here. I need to find the key to time. Get on with it. But Romana actually helps him out. Now, Romana, as I've stated in the last 2 stories, she hasn't been particularly strong yet as a great companion. And I think here is the story where she really comes into her own. McEdam is just fantastic in this story, and the story, though she does have her psychoanalyzing and technobabble moments, which is completely fine, but it doesn't overshadow her as a character and having her own subplot, which this story actually gives her as she befriends the 2 female scientists and she works along with them. Maybe, yeah, she does get pushed to the sidelines a lot, and part 1 has her going on through hanging on the edge of a cliff, a literal cliffhanger. What happens is that the druids use some sort of power so that she can hear the doctor's voice, and she starts walking to a cliff, and she sees the doctor, but we don't, so we know that it's something like in her mind, and she gets pushed off to the cliff, and she stays there for like half an episode, which is a bit disappointing. So we're not yet there yet, but I think she's improved enough in this story that I do actually consider her a good companion in this story, because she does get a lot to do in terms of helping the plot forward. Like she helps with getting evidence, and she helps to defend the doctor and the crew with the ogre, which we'll get on to in a bit. Yeah, actually, let's talk about the ogre. So the main villains of this story are, and I can't believe I'm saying this, sentient stones. And I don't mean like Weeping Angel, where they have like a form, as in just big blocks of rock just moving forward like that. And the way this is described is that they feed off blood. They're basically stone vampires, which helps with the atmospheric of the Gothic. But some scenes it is a bit ridiculous. You're trying to take it serious, but it's literally a moving block of stone, silicon-based life form. But so some really great moments, especially one where the doctor is out by the door, and then the ogre just smashes through the door, and K9 tries to shoot at it to try and defend the doctor, and he goes chasing after it. And the next time we see them, K9 is being almost destroyed, and Leela and Romana has to take him back to the TARDIS and fix him up, to which she did. But yeah, and so the doctor then goes back to the druids, because earlier on in the scene he was going to be sacrificed himself, but he's failed because the old scientist arrived just in time, and the druid leader had been killed, and this is where the doctor gets attacked by the ogre and K9 gets destroyed and and they slowly start to figure that something isn't quite what they seem. One of the women, at least, isn't who they seem to be. So the doctor goes investigating with the help of the old lady as Romana goes gallivanting to save K9. Now, Tom Baker and this poor old lady, see if it says her name on the back. Nope, doesn't even say the actress's name. Oh well. I really like this combination. The doctor travelling with an elderly person always seems to get some of the best storylines. I particularly love this dynamic, and it might be a foreshadow to the Doctor and Wilfred in his 10th incarnation, or the Doctor and Brian from the 13th incarnation. It seems like that always seems like a good dynamic. In fact, this might be the inspiration for the BBC audio dramas, The Hornet's Nest, which is the Fourth Doctor Adventures. I believe it was the first time Tom Baker reprised his role for audio, after a massive gap from when he last played him. And in it, he had a companion who was an old lady. So that's really cool. And I think this might be the inspiration because this dynamic works really well. And as Doctor discovers the 3 lost paintings, and he discovers that they're all the same painting of the same woman, and the woman is Frey, the young woman who Romana is with. And Romana gets trapped in another form of space, hyperspace, and the Doctor goes chasing after her after an episode where he tries to develop a machine to teleport him to hyperspace, which is really cool. However, this is where some of the big issues are. A lot of people criticise this story for its gigantic shift in style, and though I disagree on how strongly it is, because you know, it's a story, so they do develop over time, and shifts like this isn't anything out of the common. But the fact that the first half was just so good and so well written and so well atmospheric, especially the scenes in the night. Daryl Blake does a fantastic job directing here, especially when it's the night scenes and directing the Ogre. I mean, despite the fact that they're literally just blocks of rock, he does have some very great shots, and it reminds me a lot of the Hammer horror films, especially a scene in which the Ogre go to kill someone to recover, and they center around a camp, 2 people camping, and one of them puts their hand on the stone and she can't take it off, and then her hand turns to skeleton, and the screen just turns completely red, indicating that they're dead and their blood was used to revive the Ogre. So yeah, a lot of great atmospheric horror elements. But when we jump from the Earth setting to the spaceship in hyperspace, the story takes a dramatic shift as we're set on a spaceship, and there's a lot of humour, like a Douglas Adams kind of humour, very common in the Graham Williams era, in which the Doctor accidentally, well, he doesn't accidentally, he breaks a seal believing that there's somebody might be trapped on the other side, or they might find some answers, and he accidentally releases 2 like balls of light thing. It seemed to be judge, jury and executioner, and they're talking to each other, debating, and whilst they're debating, the Doctor and Romana leave. So yeah, we get a lot of comedy elements all of a sudden, and I don't think it's as good as the rest of the story, but I don't think it's particularly bad. If this scene was in a much more, was in a story that didn't have so much great horror elements at the start of it, then I don't think this would have been such a jarring turn of styles. I mean, I think we get some really great humorous moments, especially when we get Frey now showing her true form, in which she's painted herself, in real life she's painted herself silver, and she's doing like evil laughs. The woman who plays Frey, what's her name? Susan Eagle. She is a fantastic actress, and I believe they say that she was the 3rd actress they actually had chosen for the role. But man, I can't imagine this role being played by anyone else. I especially like when she transports back into hyperspace, and just before she does, she turns to the camera and the glare in her eyes is just so evil. Works fantastically well. And so she goes chasing the Doctor with the Ogre and stuff, and all of a sudden the story becomes a courtroom drama, as the Doctor is being sentenced to death by these balls of light, but he basically becomes his own defendant. So he basically is defending himself in the court, and He takes Romana to the stage and learns about that they can read people's minds. He tries to get them to fray, but the balls of light then can't, because they didn't see her at the time which the Doctor claims her to be. And then the Doctor uses, then questions the machines himself onto their mission, onto their debate. And yeah, it's just really silly and goofy, and it does kind of bring the story down a bit, especially how the first 3 episodes was just so high in terms of atmosphere and off the beat humour, in terms like horror humour. But now we've gone to full on goofy and silly and ridiculous. But what can you say? Apart from it's called the Stones of Blood. And so the Doctor tricks the machine, because when they're about to execute him, he grabs onto Frey, and she gets injured, and the Doctor survives. And when the robots see that she's been hurt, the Doctor's like, read her mind, her brain might be damaged. And when they read her brain, they discover that she has been the prisoner that they were defending, that they were trying to capture many centuries ago, until she killed all the crew members and took over the ship and kept them in the sealed room. And there you go. And the Doctor takes her necklace before she vanishes, and it turns out that is the key to time, an ability she has used to change form and to stay immortal and to go into hyperspace. So it does play a little bit more plot than the previous 2 segments. And so the Doctor goes back, and the day is saved. So that's the Stones of Blood. Overall, it is actually a pretty enjoyable story. It's got some great atmospheric moments, some great writing, and when it is good and horrifying, it feels like a Hammer horror film. But the last moments of it might be a bit jarring for some viewers, and it is a big problem how the first half is so well written, and then we get this really ridiculous plot. Not to say the ridiculous plot is bad by any chance, but it is just such a 360 change around. And there you go, that's the Stones of Blood. I don't think I'll remember it too fondly, but I did enjoy it. It just wasn't amazing, and I can name probably 40 Doctor Who stories that will beat this easy. So there you go. So join me next time, where the search continues. The Doctor and Romana get caught up in a conspiracy regarding robot duplicates. So join me next time for the Androids of Tara. See you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra.